Good afternoon. We're convening to resume our interviews of 4 more candidates today. And we're going to start with Agija Загребельська. So please bring on the candidates. Hi. What? Okay. Good afternoon and welcome. Thank you for coming. We are about to begin your interview. My colleague and fellow commissioner, Andrei Kozlov, is going to be the lead questioner. Others will jump in if they have some questions. Thank you for your time this afternoon. Can you understand English?
No, thank you. I think my English is enough for
okay.
This
yeah,
interview.
I think if you need, you can use the headphones. They're set for translating English to Ukrainian. So, okay, Andrei, please.
Вітаємо вас на засіданні цієї конкурсної комісії.
Good afternoon. Welcome to this meeting. Thank you so much for taking part in the competition. It's a pleasure to see so many strong candidates at all the stages. You will have to show high level of openness and honesty answering those questions that we will ask. So here you can see members of the commission: Matthew Murray, head of the commission; Tatiana Suvina, deputy head of the commission; Natalia Onishchenko, member of the commission. We also have with us our colleagues Laura Stefan and Alla Ivanovska. And so we will ask you questions in order to understand more about whether you correspond to the criteria of integrity. We will ask you a couple of questions. As far as I see, we haven't got answers to some of these questions, but we hope that we will be able to understand your attitude to some of the issues raised here. I would like to explain for all candidates that part of these questions were answered in written, but in order to correspond to the criteria of openness and integrity, we would like to ask those questions once again, so the society and everyone can hear the answers to those questions in public. Our first question is related to the car RAV4 issued in 2014. According to a declaration in 2008, 2018, you received this car. You got ownership of this car, but we are interested, where did you get money to get this car? Good afternoon, everyone. I am grateful for this question. I'm really happy, and I am happy that this is my biggest crime after so many years working as a public officer, but I would like to explain you. Until 2008, I had one more car, the same car, Toyota RAV4. In a couple of weeks after using this vehicle, on the first day when the insurance was valid, I got into a car accident. I wasn't to blame, and my car was completely destroyed, and I was paid by the insurance. So this first Toyota RAV4, before that I had Honda. I used it for about 1 year. I sold it and bought the new car using the money from selling the first car, and additional use of the money that I got from my professional activities as a lawyer and my deposit. So I bought this new car, Toyota RAV4. Thank you so much. Second question is a little bit more complicated. At least to me, it seems that it is more complicated for you. In your declaration for 2015, why do you ask? Because a lot people called this declaration zero declaration. Because there are rumors, let us call it this way, that many people mentioned their property or money that they didn't own, that they didn't actually own personally. It was so-called guarantee, which they used to explain something in the future. So we are not blaming you in such behavior, but we would like to know the source of money, quite a lot of money that you mentioned in the declaration of 2015. Thanks for the question. Unfortunately, I didn't have the opportunity to mention those money in the declaration of 2014 because paper declarations were not provided, didn't have such line, for example, savings that are saved in bank. That is why first I mentioned this money in the declaration in 2015. These were my savings after working for many years as a lawyer, as a private lawyer. And second, those were savings that I managed to save thanks to the support of the father of my first child, Alexandra. Those were money that I got thanks to several transactions. Taking into account that it concerned period until 2014, I would like to tell you that as of 2013, I didn't plan to connect my further activities with politics or anything public. That is why I didn't gather any significant documents or anything like that, but I had quite a lot of savings, and also due to the fact that in 2010 my car BMW X5 was exploded, and there was some kind of an accident, and so back then I was reimbursed by the insurance, and that is why even back then I had this money. So I was getting back from London, from the UK, where I presented interest of my client, and this car was destroyed back then until I started working publicly. I had money, so I had more money after I started working. So can you please explain to us which part of those savings is your personal money that you got from your own private entrepreneur activities as a lawyer, or which part comes from other people? I think that the lion's share comes from other people, because of those money that I saved as a lawyer, I spent for my daily activities, and most money I got this other person. I cannot tell you in percentage points, but I am conscious that it is very important issue. It is. And I'm really afraid that I might made a mistake and tell you something wrong in terms of percentage, because I understand the responsibility and the importance of this position as head of NACP. How can you prove that this lion's share of your savings that you got from another person was received from legal sources? Dear Commission, if this question is critically important, I can try to get in touch with this person. As of now, he doesn't live on the territory of Ukraine. He hasn't lived in Ukraine for many years, and I can ask him to explain the source of this money. I will tell him that it is important for me. Please be sure that he has absolutely legal source source of money. He's not related to politics. He earns a lot of money, but he's not related to any parties, including the Party of Regions. He was a businessman, and he left the territory of Ukraine for many, many years. Even before the Revolution of Dignity, he left Ukraine. But I can try to talk to him if it is critically important to you to get this information. Yes, we think that this is very important because the position that you are applying for provides for the highest level of personal openness and transparency, despite though you said that you didn't plan to go this way to get this position before, but still we need to understand that we have no doubts in the source of this money. We need to be absolutely sure that there is a legal source of this money. Dear members of the Commission, I fully understand. I have absolutely no questions towards your interest. So can I make sure that the personality, this person won't be disclosed? Dear colleagues, what do you think? I think yes, we can promise. If we have written communication, I think that would be enough for us, and we can guarantee that we won't disclose his person. I think we can identify a concrete person from the Secretariat who won't disclose this information. So only members of the Commission will know who this person is. We understand that people might have the right for the secrecy of their private life, but not when it comes to financial openness and transparency. Thank you so much, dear Commission. I'm almost sure that I will be able to tackle this issue, but I cannot tell you right now. I have to talk to this person first. Can you please tell us the following? Within the past 1 year and a half, you had quite a lot of fines, strangely a lot of fines. As they say in police, yeah, you kind of violated the rules quite a lot. In your opinion, how would you like to correct your manner or your behavior on the road in order to improve the situation if you get selected as the head of NACP? Thank you so much for the question. I do not think that this is a light question, as you said. It is a very important question. Well, first, I'm totally sure that the society shall have higher standards for the head of the NACP, even higher as to our senior officials, because the head of the NACP has to demonstrate higher standards of integrity. I can say that I will add this practice. I wouldn't like to make excuses because there is no excuse for this behavior, but it might be related to the fact that within the past year and a half, all of us Ukrainians are trying to kind of avoid the rules of physics and everything, and we want to do everything as fast as possible because Ukraine is a little bit smaller than Russia, to put it mildly. That is why we try to move faster and to do everything as fast as possible. That is why I was in hurry. But of course, these are my administrative violations, and of course, I was to blame. So I'm not making excuses. And of course, I won't continue these practices if I win in this competition, because it will put a shadow on this position, and it won't be good for the society. Thank you. Can you please tell me the areas of your professional practice where you specialized, for example, starting from 2008? What exactly did you do? Or maybe you can mention several cases which are the most interesting or the most important out of those that you worked with. Thanks for the question. I was lucky. I don't know why exactly, but I was really lucky in life. I have always been doing something I really liked, and this is some of the best implementations, realizations of the right to happiness in life. As for my lawyer's practice, I was engaged in criminal proceedings and criminal cases, defense of victims in, for example, I also took part in criminal proceedings where there were some kind of economic cases, economic issues. I taking part in criminal cases where there were attacks on human life, something like that. For 2 months, I worked in the administration of the president of Ukraine. This was quite an interesting experience because we were part of development of relevant rules, legislation, and everything. Who invited you there? How did it happen? Let me start this way. In 2003, when the Revolution of Dignity started, on the 1st of December, after the events on Bankova, first protesters were arrested. I called myself to Euromaidan SOS. I didn't know anyone personally, nor politicians, neither politicians nor protesters, and I said that I was the head of this lawyers association. We had 10 lawyers who were ready to defend protesters. In a couple of days, I received a phone call, and they asked me to defend Igor Brader. He was the guy who was losing consciousness during court proceedings in Shevchenkivsky district court, and he was arrested. Back then he was 19 years old, and I defended him in the Court of Appeal. Several days before meeting at the Court of Appeal, we received a call from Euromaidan SOS, and all lawyers who defended prisoners of Bankova, they were called this way, and we were invited to the office at Saksahansko Street, and where leaders of the opposition wanted to support us and to talk to us. There I met Pavlo Petrenko, Dmytro Storozhuk, and Valery Karpuntsov.
As for Igor Premier, we had complicated discussions. Law enforcement agencies told that they have found nunchucky, gas mask, and other items in his backpack. That is why they assured us that they were not going to let him go. And we had some serious concerns what was going to happen with him during his arrest. I was suggested to sign a peace agreement. At that time, the Criminal and Procedural Code allowed that, but I insisted we would not do that because this our strategy of defense. We had cross interviews, and Berkut agents said that they recognized Yegor by his eyes, but he was wearing a gas mask on all photos. I thought that this would allow me to protect him in the Court of Appeals. Kurduk Maria Vasilyevna was the judge at that time. This was quite a heated discussion, and I insisted, I stood upon my position that we were not going to sign his guilt. I didn't want Yegor to have those difficult problems in his life. We won these proceedings, and he was assigned home arrest. This made its impact. After that, we protected a number of other guys and girls. Those were participants of Hrushchevsky rallies. When Tatiana Chernovil was beaten up, after she was beaten up, Dmytro Storozhuk called me in the morning, and he said that taking into account your firm position on the previous cases of Maidan, that when you protected the protesters, he asked me whether I was ready to take Tatiana's case. Not so many people were ready to defend her because it was dangerous at that time. I already had a portfolio. I already had a history of a blown up car. I know what pressure is. I know what threats are. That's why I agreed with no doubts. I was told that I would be able to communicate with Wyszyński. Dmytro gave me his phone number. I didn't know him at that time, and I was told that he was waiting for me at the House of Unions. At that time, we met each other. When Maidan won, in several weeks after that, almost all Maidan lawyers received full phone calls from different officers to invite us to occupy the positions in the state agencies. This was a unique opportunity in the Ukrainian history when there was a chance for us to integrate with no strings attached. There were no competitions at that time yet, and Pavlo Petrenko called me and invited me to participate in the selection of the Council of Court. It was an interesting challenge for me because I was seeing the state court administration as a body that is entitled to make justice comfortable in Ukraine. I would like, could you please make it shorter? Okay. I came to the Council of Judges, and at that time they prioritized Zinovy Holodnyuk, but not me. I left this meeting. It was the first stressful moment for me when I learned the system from within, and I have got into the hospital after that. When I was at the hospital, Serhiy Wyszyński called me and he said, "This doesn't mean that your knowledge and experience are useless for us. We have a huge challenge at the presidential administration. We need to develop laws and procedures, a legislative framework to allow the Ukrainian soldiers to fight this war, because Russians started shooting and our soldiers couldn't shoot back. They didn't have this experience." We agreed that I would start working on this particular project for 2 or 3 months. It wasn't interesting for me to keep on working at the presidential administration after that, but one of the people whom we cooperated at that time, Serhiy Vlasenko, and a number of other people, when we overcame this challenge as much as we could, taking into account the tools that we had, I have left this position. Thank you. Following these questions, this is already the past, but you have been defending the participants of the Maidan revolution. At the same time, I see the court's appeal decision on the 17th of March 2014. I see that your husband, Denis, was named in the list of suspects in connection with the disappearance of Igor Lutsenko and Yuri Lutsenko and Igor Verbitsky. Do you know anything about the situation? As far as I know, as far as I remember, he was not a suspect. We have this information. We have the information that he was a suspect with his phone number and his name. Kyivstar, he was a Kyivstar user, and his phone number was given as one who is the suspect. The most interesting thing here is that this was not his phone number. The first time I have learned about these proceedings from the commission, we tried to figure out whose phone number that was, and this wasn't his phone number. He never used it, actually. That's what I have learned from him. At that time, we lived together. That's why I'm sure I didn't know about this phone number. This situation and where these accusations came from, I don't know. If I start working on this aspect, probably I will learn more about it. But I believe that this was one of the stories when some people wanted to accuse me or my relatives of something. It was in 2014, right? Yes, it was on March 2014. At that time, you were not such an interesting person at that time. I only suppose that probably someone has made a mistake in the phone number, because he had two phone numbers and none of them was the one indicated in the list. That would be weird, taking into account that the issues that I covered, one of those issues that I covered were the abductions of Lutsenko and Verbitsky. So I believe that I gave my contribution to figure out the people who did that. It was at the time when they were not found yet. So let's get back to your property issues. You gave a loan of 2,400 hryvnias. You gave it to Pirogova. In your declaration for 2015, you indicate this loan, and later you did not indicate it. What was the reason for it? Did this loan stop existing according to some legal procedures, or this was just your feeling that you did not have to declare it? This was a very old loan. As far as I remember, it was either in 2006, 2007. I indicated this loan because I had a receipt at that time, and I hoped that I would find Pirogova and she would return this money to me. But she has changed her address, she has changed her phone number, and she never picked the phone up. I have already lost the receipt. Probably I can find it here somewhere, but I had lost my hope to get this loan back. That is why I didn't believe it would be honest to declare it and to show it to the society, because I have already lost my belief that I would get this money back. It was all over 10 years ago, and I didn't receive any signs that I would get this money back. When did she have to give the money back to you? Within 1 year. Do you remember why you gave her this money? It was $45,000 at the time. This is huge money. Anna Pirogova's story is her story, but to give it in a nutshell, a criminal proceeding has started about her. According to Article 190, there were a lot of people like me. She has given different stories to different people about some disease, about some important purchase, about some career issues. There were absolutely different stories, and eventually we found out that it was a fraud. According to the criminal procedures, I didn't file my appeal because there were a lot of people appealing, and at that time I didn't want to spend my time for such a useless case. As far as we understand, you do not give such big amount of money to strangers. Was she your friend or what? She was my colleague. We weren't friends, but she was my colleague at the Pečersk court when I was working as a secretary of the court, and she was the court's assistant at that time. When we were communicating with her, a lot of other people didn't see the signs that she might be prone to frauds. But later, her personal life changed, and this made a huge impact on her behavior. Therefore, a number of people, as I didn't expect such a fraud, a number of people either also didn't expect it. Whom were you cooperating at the Pečerski Sud, I mean the judges? I worked at Reinert and Hrinic. I was the secretary of Hrinic. Okay. This was a good example of Reinert's leadership, because she's the judge of the Court of Appeal, right? We do not communicate now, but at that time she considered the cases regarding parenthood and place of residence of children, and the way she addressed her work was exemplary. All right. Another thing that I wanted to learn. When you worked at the NACP, you were offered a position. I think you have noticed that on the one hand, the activity is this activity was important, but on the other hand, it was not covered by the current legislation. I mean, NACP did not have was not sanctioned to work on the sanctions policy. Why did you decide to take this position while the status of this position is quite doubtful according to the law? I will try to answer briefly, but if I do it for a long time, please cut me. In 2022, I believe that not just Ukraine, but the whole world was not ready to the challenge of the Russians' war in partnership with other autocracies. Ukraine's legal structure, as well as legal structure of the US, was not ready to start those sanctions because Russia's economy was very much integrated in the world processes. Ukraine was very much behind here. We didn't have any sanction infrastructure at all. Let's be frank, we don't even have it now. There is no separate body to own the whole sanction process. Ukraine's peculiarity that we witnessed during the Revolution of Dignity is that Ukrainians are ready to for self-organizing. So NACP, which has lost in February 22 their main duties, we have seen what could be done to be as useful as possible. Sanctions policy turned to be the one that could be useful for Ukraine. The team of analysts were ready to develop new instruments. They worked with big data, etc. So in February 2022, we started forming the first sanctions list. In December, when Alexander Novikov offered me this position, he called me and asked me the question, either the parliament is going to give this duty to the NACP in the upcoming future, or the parliament would give this duty to a different body, or the parliament would create a body to cover the sanctions. So in fact, this was a temporary period that we needed to go through and support the state in the part of the sanctions. My position is the following. On the one hand, I don't believe it is useful to create a separate body because I believe that the sanctions policy is good enough to bring economical use to Ukraine and other countries. Let's be honest, 15 members of the NACP are at the front line and 4 people have been killed in action. If the sanctions are being developed in a strong way, so less employees of NACP and other bodies will have to fight at the front line. On the other hand, while this hasn't been decided by high officials, my position is that everybody would have to contribute up to 50% of their employees to sanctions. And I'm not speaking only about NACP, but about other departments, other structural departments of the government, to study, like, for example, the Ministry of Economy, the Ministry of Infrastructure, etc., that they needed to contribute their efforts until the moment when the owner of this process would be defined. NACP was the leader in this process. I think you wouldn't doubt that. But there were no huge corruption scandals at the sanction direction, thanks to the participation of NACP.
That should be good. Thank you. Go ahead.
У вас досі зберігається статус фізичної особи підприємства.
You are still a sole proprietor, private entrepreneur. Is that right or no? Andrei, could you please switch on your mic? You are remaining a sole proprietor, an individual entrepreneur. Is that right or no? I have just read about that when reading the publication of Transparency International Ukraine. I was sure that I made everything possible to seize my individual entrepreneurship. I will figure this out. There is no activity in that entrepreneurship. I don't need that status at all. So if there were some bureaucratic processes that did not stop the entrepreneurship, I will figure it out. Did you file an application to stop this entrepreneurship? As far as I remember, I did. But I don't think that I didn't. I do know that I prepared a package of documents to stop this, but maybe there were some misunderstandings at the tax office. Usually it goes as following. The Center for Administrative Services is doing it automatically by your application, and after that the tax office solves their issues, like if you didn't pay some taxes whatsoever. But those processes are not very interrelated. So if you have filed an application, a statement, and you have received a document that you have filed a statement, we would be happy to see this document. Thank you, dear members of the Commission. I will figure this out and I will get back to you with this issue. I remember that at that time I still was receiving money from my previous activities, from different sources of my income during 2022. Probably because I didn't receive all the income of my previous activities, this was a prolonged process. But I will clarify that and I will give you all the necessary documents. If the Center for Administrative Services needs some documents from me, I will do that. Was Google your client, or did you monetize money there? I monetized money there because the period when they were receiving the money, it takes some time.
Thank you so much. What about the conditions of your failure to declare significant changes in your material conditions after selling a car? Because we can see that in 2019 there were information from Solomensky District Court. There was information that in September 2017 you sold the car, which cost 300,000 hryvnias, but you didn't submit information about this. And as far as we know, you were like found guilty, but you paid a fine to. So actually there were two protocols about the same vehicle. So this is my so-called biggest crime that we've seen, that we started with. This vehicle I bought before I started doing public service. I declared it in every declaration starting from 2014. I bought this vehicle in 2008. In a couple of months, I gave it to my brother. My brother had a special documentation to use it, and I didn't use this car. But in every declaration, starting from 2014, I mentioned this car. After e-declaration was created, I think that you will hear a lot of times. Back then, we didn't fully understand how it functioned, what we need to declare, how we need to declare. When I sold this car, it was in this period. My brother sold this car, but he told me about this because I was in public service and we didn't talk much with him because I was so busy. he told me about it in about 3 to 4 months or about half a year, and he brought me the money. I understood that I would have problems with declaration because of that. That is why we had an act of transferring the money. I declared that I sold this vehicle myself. I declared myself that I received this money, and after that, the national agency came to me and started to check. And there were 2 protocols. The first one, because I didn't declare receiving this income in time, and second protocol related to the fact that I didn't declare that I do not longer have this vehicle. So this was the result of my work in the Anti-Monopoly Committee. I think you saw, you read, I described it in my explanations. I voted in some of the voting. This voting was related to the cases related to all the 4 most influential businessmen in Ukraine, or maybe oligarchs. I don't know if I can call them oligarchs after this new draft law, this law was adopted. So maybe it's quite cynical to say it right now, but taking into account how NACP worked back then, it seems to me this was some kind of proof of my active work in the Anti-Monopoly Committee. But I agree that it was my mistake. I should have declared this, and as a responsible owner, I have to always be aware where my property is, including the car. So I should have known. There was this new requirement to declare, and it wouldn't happen today, because right now I know for sure where all my property is, and I control everything, and of course my property wouldn't be sold without my knowledge. So your brother actually had the car, and he didn't inform you in time that he sold the car. Yes, exactly. It was mentioned in the court decision. The national NACP didn't doubt these documents that I provided. This was the act of receiving the money, where it was mentioned that my brother transferred me the money on this very day. He was ready to testimony in court. He provided official explanations at the Notary Public. So this was kind of a crime which was done without knowledge. So it means that, yes, I was found guilty, but I agree that it was a mistake. But you continue to give your brother power of attorney, and I see that he also has your power of attorney to present you as that he can live in a place nearby in the Kyiv Oblast. So what is this object of property? So this is a smaller house. I haven't visited it yet, 70 square meters, if I'm not mistaken. This is the house that my brother built together with his wife for 2 years. They were building this. In the end of 2022, they had their first child, and they are living there. I think that they haven't finished the renovations. Together with the land plot, this house, as far as I know, costs up until $30,000. This is quite a simple house and a small plot of land. Why I am registered there? Because according to the Ukrainian legislation, a person shall be registered somewhere. This is compulsory. And as you saw in my declarations, I prefer investments into money instead of property, but I really hope that it will change, that we will be able to be sure in our property rights to be able to register 2 apartments. I don't have my own apartment where I could be registered. So this is the first property that was built by my brother, and I asked him to register me there, taking into account that I couldn't file my declaration and competition documents without a registration somewhere. Yes, it was necessary, it was compulsory. because you didn't have your flat at Tatarka district. Yes, it was sold, and another apartment on the Mechanizatorov Street was also sold, Shapovalov. Yes, today the new name of the street is Shapovalov. When I bought it, it was Mechanizatorov. When I got this car from my family, it was Mechanizatorov Street. Thank you so much. I have asked all the questions. Dear colleagues, do you have any?
So, thank you very much. Again, we appreciate you coming for the interview. Your interview is now officially concluded, and you are free to go. Sure.
Ми чекаємо на документи, які ви нам.
So we are expecting you to send us the rest of the documents. Please don't forget your comment here.
Okay, so the next candidate for Dmitry Kalmakov.